So next activation for the Commonwealth will be the 22nd Guards. So if we have a quick look at their position, at the moment they have a battalion attacking the fort just outside Sollum, 2 battalions attacking the fort at Kualala, which is Back's unit obviously, and the HQ is here. Now the HQ currently, because of the positioning of these units, and especially I suppose Vekmar is the one, I think effectively for him to trace we'd be looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, sorry, 22nd, 1, 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So he could claim optimal, but then he would definitely be working on tracks and off-road. And I'm just going to check that again. Indeed, so it would count as tracks, but that's still not too bad because it gives us fatigue of 1, tracks of -2, but optimum of 1, so an overall -1. So let's roll for that first snafu for 22nd Guards. We rolled a 5, so a partial, not at all what we were looking for. So their orders are to maintain pressure on Kualala, but then perhaps move on to the barracks. Now I think the barracks at Sollum has suddenly taken on a far bigger significance than the Kualala. So with that in mind, I think what I'd be doing is I would be, he's stuck in place, but he's going to move up right now. That's rough terrain, he can't even, because that would be a half, and that would be, yep, 2, thought so, 2.5. So they can't even come and assist her with a partial. No, that is poor. Yeah, they have been since the start of this particular scenario, but they are definitely kind of in between a rock and a hard place. They just don't really have the punch, the capability to kind of do what they're trying to do. The enemy units are better supported. What do we do? If I just flip him, because I have an opinion, yep, he's a 5, and fatigue 1, we'd get no modifier, so we literally be looking for a 5 or a 6 to make a difference and have a second activation and hopefully get a better roll than 5. If we submit to combat again and put on the objectives, of course, we stand a chance to get another fatigue roll. but I guess that's what they're there for in a way. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the objective marker there. And we're going to attack this with just this unit here, because they physically can't. I will break contact with that one in the hope that we get a second activation. So Italians start with a 3. Again, just give me the necessary. Start with a 3, +1 for support, +1 for prep def, +1 for terrain. So we're looking at a 6 for the Italian unit there. And for the 22nd Guards, we start with a 4, +2 for suppression, takes us to a 6. Nothing else because we don't have a double objective zone. Equal. But we rolled a 10. And that's an A1. So we take a casualty definitely. And D situational. So again, he's in a fort. It's his first casualty. So again, he's going to take a hit as well. So I just need 2 hit markers. Roll for fatigue. We rolled a 1, so the fatigue does increase. Sorry about that, just knocked the camera. So fatigue moves up to 2, and roll for that all important second activation. Will we manage to get a 5 or a 6? We did. We rolled a 5. Would you believe it? Excellent. Let's just dig out. Okay, managed to temporarily lose where I've put my little bag of combat markers, so we'll just ignore that for the minute. We know that both of those units need to have additional casualties. Let's just crack on and finish this this combat. So we're now fatigue 2. We're also tracks, so we're -3, but we are optimum. So we're back to -2. So -2, snafu. And we rolled a 3. That'll be that then. That was quicker than I thought it was going to be. I thought there was going to be an interesting little postscript. The reason I'm saying about the postscript, which I think is just to wrap this up basically. Actually, I'm saying wrap it up. I won't wrap it up, because what I'll do is I'll do 15th Panzer, and the orders I gave 15th Panzer was to attack Solemn. Now I hadn't realised, but the reason why obviously we went after the fort there is because the fort is kind of the entrance to Solemn, so you have to have that hex. If 22nd Guards had managed to extract their digits and take it, that would have been an excellent barrier to a counterattack by 15th Panzer. As it is, I think the loss of, if I'm right in this, the loss of the Hellfire Pass is the critical thing, really. And this is the thing that I think about orders. Whereas, you know, obviously a player in this situation would probably pull everything back to try and get Hellfire Pass back and hope 4th Indian held on to Solemn. In this situation, for the Commonwealth player, it's only going to go one way, because if I run down through my orders for the various formations, as we've seen, 4th Indian, they had orders for Hellfire and Solemn, they managed to do both of those things. 22nd Guards had given orders for Kuala and Solemn Barracks, which is why I was pulling away from the Kuala, thinking, well, we aren't going to take that, but it would be quite important if we could get that toehold in the barracks. Support group, well, again, reflecting on the game from the very beginning, support group, I sent them after Hellfire Pass because I didn't realise in my lax reading of the reinforcements that 4th Indian were actually coming on that turn. And whilst, without a doubt, the presence of the support group is what pushed down Hellfire, because I think 4th Indian on their own don't quite have enough meat on the bones to kind of force that position. The fact that they were then committed for that length of time, and then just really on the 17th year they've moved up to try and hold that flank, and unfortunately again because of snafus, although actually the division's still fresh, they just didn't have the movement to put a strong enough shield up, which actually would have again made more of a battle if 5th Light had to try and kind of plough their way through to get to their objectives. That would have made a huge difference. The two remaining armoured brigades, obviously 4th Armoured, are in a bit of trouble because they've had their trains knocked back and currently are illegal because they're beyond optimum range. But 4th Armoured is the only one which still has Matildas running. 7th Armoured is unfortunately down to 2 tanks, well, sorry, 2 strength points of tanks. But 7th Armoured had given them orders to kind of assist the support group with .206, so they aren't going to go very far. And likewise 4th Armoured had actually told them to go Musaid, Solemn. So actually that is a thing, Solemn Barracks. Although again, you see, we will struggle because there's no way around at the minute for 4th Armoured to kind of get in and get at Solemn Barracks because of the position of terrain units, those 88s in that fort. Yeah, we're going to struggle a little bit there. So I think, if I'm honest, the Axis player would now probably pick up 15th Panzer. See, now even as I say that, and I think to myself, it's back to this thing about the critical thing being Hellfire Pass. Even as I say that, although again, orders are orders, 15th Panzer, well, actually they don't have to. I was going to say they would have to abandon Fort Capuzzo, but of course they don't. They've got enough reach to not do that. But why don't we just roll the dice and just see what we would have got perhaps as a first activation for 15th Panzer. Interesting. We only rolled a 5. Based on a 5, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, they are optimal. The fatigue 0, so there's nothing there. So we'd have 0, 0. The 5 would give them a partial. But the partial, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, the partial doesn't actually get them to Solemn. So they would need a second activation. But they are only a 3. Let's roll that second activation and see what it transpires. Yeah, we rolled a 6. So we would have had a hit. We would have got a combat in against Solemn. Oh, interestingly again, no, we could probably try and do what we did before. Yeah, we could probably do an armored attack again. We'd have the terrain, we'd have the and they don't have support, 4th Indian. I think, again, hindsight, I think those Matildas should have been used in support. Because we'd be 6 against 4, wouldn't we? 6 against 4, what would we get if we rolled again? Well, there's a 9. I think that's a full activation, which means that would be a double. So we'd have a double tap on the defenders of Solemn. Actually, 5th guards, we'd have to drop support, but again, we probably could. Yeah, we could bring up the 1st unit to drop support and use the 2nd unit to attack. So what were we thinking there? We were thinking, let's see, it's going to be 6 for the Germans. Let's get the charts do it right again. It'd be 6. They could put in suppression, which would be 7. They could claim assist. Could they claim assist? I think they could get an assist somehow, which would be 8. Double objective would be 9. Ah, right. Sorry. Actually, with a double, we could put a proper infantry unit into there. Yeah, we could. So rather than it being the armored attack, it would be... strange, there are only 3s. Maybe we're better off with the armour. Let's try the armour, because we'd get 2 cracks at it as well, wouldn't we? So we're going to go with the armour, but we couldn't then add the suppression. We couldn't get the assist. So we'd basically be looking at 5. We'd be looking at 6. The Germans would be looking at 6. The Brits would be looking at 4 plus 1 for terrain, 5. Six, I think, because we'd also get Hexide in that position for the escarpment. So 6-6, straight roll. What did they get? A 3, absolute nightmare. Pow, 2 hits. So you'd be down to a 1 step with 1 to go. Interesting. Swings and roundabouts, and then he gets an 11, which is a D1 and a D retreat. So that'll be a hit. Actually, automatic retreat. but no safe path. Has he got a safe path? Has he not got a safe path? Does a friendly unit open up a safe path? I should remember this stuff, but I never do. Yes, they do. So he does have a safe path, so he would retreat. So on the very final shot of one step of 5th Panzer, they would victoriously roll into Sollum, and effectively we'd be back to where the game started, with all the points held by the Axis. And actually, when you kind of look at this position here, it does look a bit grim for the Brits, because unlike the historical Battleaxe, where the British Army managed to pull itself all the way back out, in this version, although there's a huge gap here, even though we can see these German HQs and things, that is a gap really. It's not held by units, but the Brits would be in trouble there because we're kind of surrounded. So a worst case Battleaxe in this instance by the end, although it had such promising moments. So there you go, a few little ups and downs along the way, obviously in terms of this thing of getting all the rules correct, as I've said before, but I've really enjoyed this. I thought it was a really good game, really balanced. I think I've learned a lot about what I would do the next time as the Brits. But the Germans just have so much kind of combat power, I think. It's a tricky one for the Brits. You need those roles to go with you early on, and then probably, hopefully, dig in. And I know I keep going back to this, but it's because you have conversations with other people, and I totally get the thing that we all like to play games different ways, but I just can't understand why. I can't understand. People prefer to have the control in the game. I get that, but anybody who's read military history knows that the biggest factors in many battles is that people don't have the control. If one side has total control, the other side's in trouble. So things like the orders, as I've said, to me, the only reason I can wrap this up now is because looking at it, you kind of go, well, it's kind of obvious. There's no British units in this position with orders to kind of counterattack and take things that they've lost. Today on the 17th, so it's a done deal, and that's part of that thing. This thing that people talk about of being inside the loop of the enemy's decision-making process. If you like, the Axis in this turn completely stole the initiative by going after the two things that were still held by. Well, in fact, I gave 15th Panzer counterattack orders around Sollum when actually Sollum was still held. So maybe whoever was commanding 15th Panzer, maybe it was even Rommel from a back seat, had a certain amount of prescience there that things might not go as well as they thought. And then, look at 5th Light, who kind of struggled to get across, but again, in both cases, 15th Panzer and 5th Light, they were last ditch end of the stretch kind of combats that worked. So super balanced, I think. Really fun game to play. In fact, I could set this up again and go again. I shan't, because I'm going to do something different, I'm sure. But it would be a good thing. In terms of casualties, we're looking at 5 battalion markers. They're actually all 2s on the Axis side, plus the static unit in Sollum lost. The Brits lost 3 2-strength battalions, which I think 2 of those obviously were the infantry support components of the armoured brigades. 1 from 4th Indian, which actually wasn't a loss, was it? That one from 4th Indian was actually just a retreat off board, so that's not quite correct, if you like. I think he was down a couple of casualties. And then one set of Matildas, which was a 2-step, and 6th Royal Tank Regiment, which was a 4-step, so that was a bigger loss. So yeah, I think if the Brits could pull themselves out of it, and certainly in terms of like there, where they're still at the gates of Hellfire, that's not a bad position. Although, you know, they'd have to be sure to do something about 5th Light, because 5th Light are just going to rampage through this position here. In actual fact, 5th Light, if you were really unlucky, 5th and lost initiative, 5th Light may well trap 4th Indian the wrong side of Hellfire Pass. So that would be a disaster, and you can kind of imagine maybe if there's enough left in Frontier and that one unit are back to still stall the 8th Army, 15th Panzer maybe hooking around the opposite side and coming and joining 5th Light, or even pushing in on point 206 would probably spell the end for the 8th Army there. Yeah, there you go. I hope you've all enjoyed the game. As I say, brilliant to play. All the best. Happy gaming.